This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
So we're back on the radio show, this podcast with Chad Francis with Thrive Stewardship Financial Advisors. And he has recently written a book on the generosity blueprint. And so I figured, hey, what better time for me to start being more generous than on this show? And so for a long time, I've been trying to come up with a way, Chad, to provide like a gift, like do something, I don't want to even say generous because it's not that generous, but it's just like, hey, thank you for taking the time to drive down to Sacramento, go up to the 5th story of this building and record a radio show with me. And so here, let me grab it for you.
I'm just happy to be here, man. Thank you. Well, thank you.
I heard of some kind of a jar.
Go ahead, open it up.
Could be a food product, could be cologne. It's small. It is, drum roll.
$5,000. You should.
Yeah, right. A gold bullion.
Made for More coffee cup.
So we have discussed this mug. Can I have a look at it?
Absolutely.
So I know he wanted to do some type of mug with a gold handle.
You got it.
You've accomplished that. And the logo. I'm looking around. I don't see John Wayne's mug.
I know you want to put John Wayne's.
John Wayne.
So I don't know. For those of you who are listening, and I don't know if you're aware of this, Chad, but the whole idea behind the coffee cup was John Wayne, after he would film a movie, he'd give the set and the cast and crew a gold-handled mug to commemorate the filming of that picture. And when I heard about that, I was like, you know what? Whether somebody's drinking water, coffee, tea, whatever, they need something to put it in. I'm going to give them a gold-handled mug.
I love it.
So that's the story behind the mug. So
and we were
very
supposed
much.
to put John Wayne on there. So
that
really
was Matt's idea. That was Matt's idea.
I will say, though, the gold handle does make it stand out. I'm not a coffee drinker, so I'm not a big mug
You can put your apple cider vinegar in that.
Woof,
But
a whole cup of apple cider.
It's good for you. It's healthy. It helps your gut. But I don't know. It's just me. I thought putting John Wayne's picture on that, and it's not trademarked. You're not selling it, but I think it'd be fun. Anyways,
okay, maybe.
Or there was discussion about putting Johnny Jennings' mug on it, and then people would probably just toss it.
They would toss it,
Nobody
yeah.
would drink out of that thing.
Landfills.
Johnny
full of
Jennings,
golden-
but dressed as the Duke. You got to put on
Yeah,
the...
There you
dressed as John Wayne. You got to have some kind of cowboy hat,
Yeah.
right? A cigar
man.
in your mouth.
There, I
Yeah.
can do the cigar for sure.
Put a bacon on a biscuit and let's go. We're burning daylight.
Burning daylight. Man, my 3-year-old says that every day. Burning daylight's the cutest thing. But hey, so we're in the studio with Chad and talking about generosity because you came out with this book, or it's coming out. Do you have a date, a tentative date for when people can expect it?
There is a date that is coming, and every day we're trying to push it up sooner. So I can't have a finite date on it. I'm hoping it's going to be mid-January, and we're already 1 week in.
Yeah.
By the time this airs, who knows? We might already have that book launched.
Perfect. Okay. So if you're listening to this show, if it's whether live or recording, please just go to where do they go to find the book?
It's going to be available on Amazon via paperback, Kindle, or a digital PDF, or get plugged in at thrivestewardship.com. Join our newsletter or email the team because we're happy to send out some promotional items, get you some coupons, plug you into the flash sale where it's going to be on a super discount, whatever we can do to help.
And there will be an audio version of this book, correct?
Correct.
See, I knew
Are you
it.
serious?
Yep.
Of course.
Are you
Every book that comes out, you have to have an audio version.
That was going to
of
be
it.
my question for Chad, because I was like, are you going to read it or?
They are having me read the audio version of the book so that the folks that I already work with, that know me, that know my voice, they get to hear me read the book aloud to them. And I said, all right, let's go. I'm going to read a 150-page book in one sitting.
That
will
I'm
say,
so
though,
jealous right now.
You have a very soothing voice. You
Yeah.
just got to be careful you don't put people to sleep. It's nice. I like it. I enjoy your voice. It's very soothing.
I appreciate that because that's that phenomenon where you hear your own voicemail recording and you go,
Oh, man.
That's my voice?
Yeah, exactly.
Matt's being very generous right now.
appreciate it.
You complimenting your voice. Yeah. But hey, so we're talking about the book. You've been working on this for a while. There's a lot of canons of like Dave Ramsey type teachings in there.
Yes.
But this isn't like Total Money Makeover, the sequel. This is, instead of me just guessing, how about you explain? Like if people have read Total Money Makeover, how would they benefit from this book?
Sure. So let's backpedal even. The
Sure.
Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey, several years old at this point, but it is a wonderful step-by-step approach for how to handle money. And a
Isn't
lot of
it like 100 different recipes on how to cook rice and beans? That's what I thought it was.
It ought
Rice
to
and
be.
beans and rice.
That's how you get out of debt. You got to
That's
go
all
on
I
that
hear
simple
about
diet.
that book. It's just rice and beans until you get out of debt.
And cutting your credit cards up.
And so he takes an approach, and a lot of it is also how I take an approach of biblical personal finance. A lot of the lessons that he incorporates, a lot of the lessons that I incorporate, we have that in common because we took them from the Bible. It's what it teaches about throughout, but also specifically in the book of Proverbs. And so you're going to see a lot of commonality there. And I'm even call out Dave Ramsey. I throw out one of his quotes, I give him credit, and I tell the story about how Dave impacted my life personally, how things turned around completely, and I changed directions on both my education, my career, and how I handled my
You mind sharing that
finances.
story briefly? I haven't heard this story.
Sure. Oh, gosh. Going back into like 2012, 2013.
A few presidents ago.
Yeah, just a little bit. Driving through the Nevada desert back when we really didn't have, MP3 players or our iPhones to plug into our car stereo, or at least at the time I didn't. Listening to the radio because I already burned through all the CDs that I had and didn't care for anymore. And we're just listening to whatever we had. My wife and I, fiance at the time, driving through Nevada, heading to Idaho to go visit family. Nothing was on the radio for a long period of time. So I'm just scanning through stations until finally something came on. And it was the top of the hour for the Dave Ramsey show. Hearing all about how cash was king and debt was dumb.
Right.
And it was the first time I had ever heard that or anything like it.
Really?
Even though I had taken finance classes and I had gone through an educational system that taught all about money, and yet you didn't hear these types of things because, well, this is common sense. And so it was a whole different arena for me, and I was just hooked immediately. Came home, jumped through all of the books, went through the content, started putting on Financial Peace University.
Which you still do, right?
Which I still do.
Wow.
Changing my career course and getting out of mechanical engineering and going more towards finance because it seemed like a better path for me of application of math. I want to get out of this theoretical, we're working in the ninth dimension where things don't make sense.
Yeah.
Let me take something that I can apply real math to and help people. And so for me, that was a no-brainer. Changed what I was doing immediately, got into doing financial advisement, and now not working under, but endorsed by Dave Ramsey as an investment advisor in the Sacramento area.
That's awesome. That's a full circle story right there.
Yeah. And so
Wow.
paying homage to him in the book was, I felt, a requirement, giving him credit of here's how he's impacted my life.
Yeah.
But from the book perspective, where they differ, yes, the Total Money Makeover has the baby steps that teaches you how to get out of debt, why to get out of debt, and what those next steps can look like for building wealth.
Mm-hmm.
I took a little bit different of approach to say we need to incorporate some of those things because they're valuable, the biblical personal finance behind why one gets out of debt, why we should budget, why we should value taking care of our families, but also doing it from a perspective of the goal of intentionality and generosity. So we budget to take control of our money so that we can find margin to not only take care of business, but we have to save, we have to spend, but we should also always be giving.
And that's a good point because, man, it's been a while since I read Total Money Makeover. But from what I can recall, he talks about his baby steps, like, having a slush fund, getting out of debt. But then when it gets into the more investing and then generosity piece, like live like nobody else, so then you can later live and give like nobody else. It's not very, there's not a whole lot of information in that regard. And that's kind of what your book covers though, right?
We covered more in depth on the generosity side, the connection that we want people to find with God and reflecting the heart of God by being generous people. Mm-hmm. But then there's so many more chapters that go into further details of here's how we build wealth in retirement accounts for our later years. Here's how we build wealth in non-retirement accounts to get up to that point. Here's how we do legacy planning to pass this money down generationally so that our children can continue to be generous with the pile that we have created. All the way through marriage and how marriage should be teamwork and how a good team-working marriage can lead to bigger generosity.
That's super important. Like some people look at like the numbers, like, hey, this is how much money I have coming in. This is how much money I have going out. Here are my debts, my liabilities, assets, liabilities. But money is a very emotional thing. Like when we're dealing with buyers and sellers all the time, there's just something different about when all of a sudden there's large sums of money involved, and people are not communicating on the same frequency. So whether you're buying or selling a house, or whether you're planning for retirement, trying to get out of debt, being on the same page as your spouse, and like that can I mean, what is it? Over 50%, I think, of marriages end because of money issues.
Yeah.
And so this isn't necessarily just like a book about money. This is a book also about how to do life with your spouse.
Yeah, and you were really nailing it there. It's if half of marriages end in divorce, and the number one cause of divorce, aside from infidelity, is financial issues, how much more successful can our marriages be, everyone's marriages be, if we get finances in order?
Yeah.
And a lot of it just starts with communication and intentionality. It's not going out and working harder and making more money.
Yeah.
It's about being a better manager of what you have directly in front of you that the majority of people fail to do, unfortunately.
Because there's a lot of people, I think in Newport, actually. So Newport, California, wealthy part of the world. Their typical divorce rate is in the 70s.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah, so it's really high. So having more money maybe isn't necessarily a determinant of a healthy marriage or a happy marriage. So I don't want listeners to hear, hey, if I make more money, my marriage will be better. But being on the same page with your spouse about money. What are you doing with the money? How are you spending the money? How are you giving them those resources? That is way more important than maybe
Absolutely.
the overall number.
More money will not make your marriage better. More money will not make you happier. More money will amplify who you already are. And so if you're a bad communicator, and if you're not open with your spouse, and you're not talking about money and sharing things, more money is not going to help that situation. It's going to amplify the negativity of it. And so having better communication is that starting point. And when you're on the same page with your spouse, and you do things together, and you're budgeting together, and you have common goals together, then yeah, more money would be a blessing. And so it really depends on where you're at today. Don't take that approach of more money is going to fix the problem. You interjecting with intentionality is what's going to fix the problems.
Yep, and being generous, right? And so that goes back to, the whole theme behind the book is being generous. Like, you don't have to have a whole bunch of money to be generous. Generosity, would it be fair to say that generosity is like a condition of the heart, like a perspective, not necessarily something that you physically have, but it's more of a characteristic?
It's who we are as people. We are made to be generous people. And so watch what happens every time you give money. And Matt touched on that before. When you're giving, the joy that you feel. No one has regretted when they gave money. So start small. It doesn't have to be a grand thing of, well, gosh, I can't afford to give $1,000 a month. Then don't start there. Start where your heart leads you. Start where God leads you, and give $5 here and there. When you're at church, put $20 as the bucket passes by, and see how that changes the posture of your heart. See how that changes your week. See how that changes your attitude. And let that be the fuel that prompts you to be more and more generous, not just because you're chasing the good feeling, but because you're now doing what you've been called to do. You're just being and living as a more generous person.
So to provide a personal example of this, like, money, quite frankly, terrifies me. There is something about money that is very enticing, and it has it can be used for good or it can be used for evil. It's a tool, but who's holding that tool? How's that tool being used? You can use a knife to kill somebody. You can use a knife to cook up your tri-tip.
That's a great analogy.
That's a grisly analogy. But so from a young age, what I've done in my life is I have been just absolutely terrified about money. So what I've done is, even when I was in high school, I'd get like $15 a week was my allowance. As I would tithe.
Mine was a buck.
A buck. Well, you were older.
That's right. I'm from a different generation.
You're a different generation. You got a buck and a pack of cigarettes a week. You're from that generation.
That's right.
So, but doing that has, even since high school, and then continuing that habit of giving, whether you have a lot of money or whether you don't have a lot of money, has, I think, protected my heart a little bit more than it would have if I waited to do that. And so if you're wrestling with money, you having like a negative perspective towards money about, hey, whatever it is, I would encourage you just start giving, because the benefit of giving, aside from whoever it's going to or whoever it's helping or whatever it is, the giving of that super powerful thing called money really does a lot for you personally. And that's been my experience for the last,
And when I think it applies even to businesses, there's the new workforce, the younger generation, they're looking to work for companies who have that same heart and mentality. Yeah. It's great. Okay, you're doing well as a business, you're profitable, but what are you doing to make an impact in the community? How else are you serving people? I want to work for that kind of a company that has a greater purpose. So going back to our purpose, it's not just to accumulate wealth and support and provide for our family. That's true, but there's more to it. When we're, like you said earlier, Johnny, when you're on your deathbed, you look back and you think, well, what did I do with all my money? I need to reprioritize and reorganize. I want to leave a legacy. So what can I do now?
Yeah.
And let's have that perspective much earlier.
And don't wait. So if they want to know more about how they can plan and give and get the ball started sooner rather than later, Chad, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Heading over to thrivestewardship.com, or they can always reach out to us by phone, 916-790-9907. Whatever's easiest for that person. We're happy to plug them in, give them a complimentary consultation, talk to them about finances, point them in the right direction, be a guiding hand, whatever anyone needs.
Awesome. So just go to thrivestewardship.com, reach out to Chad. He can help you. He's the guy I trust, and I always call him with money questions. But the last thing before we end this segment is, was the book written by AI, or did you actually write it?
The book was not written by AI, and so we had a funny joke about this earlier, and there's a little icon that's now inside of most books, and so I got to don that special little icon. I want to make sure I do not misquote it.
It's genuine, it's authentic. This was written by a real human being.
Yeah, so it has the certification, so it has a little stamp with an H, certified, written by a human.
So written by Chad. There you go. All right. Well, hey, if they want to find that book, just go to thrivestewardship.com. You'll get some great discounts and some other goodies if you go there. Thanks again for being on the show, Chad. Let me know when you use that gold-handled coffee cup.
Well, thank you guys, and I appreciate the mug. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, it's a new year. Maybe you're thinking about a fresh start, moving out of state, or maybe upgrading to someplace bigger, downgrading to something a little bit more manageable. Who can help you with that? Who's going to walk you through it and make sure you have a seamless, simple process and get you the most money for your home? It's, of course, Johnny Jennings and his team at Made for More Realty. There's a reason why, guys, they've been voted #1 in Roseville for the past 3 years, why they have almost 1,000 5-star Google reviews. In fact, they sell homes 27% faster than other homes on the market. You expect more? Get more with Johnny Jennings and his team at Made for More Realty. Just Google Made for More Realty today and get more for your home. License number 1982-171.